This is my friend Jake. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Jayne.
Yes.
And
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 Jane and I have built a friendship over the last few months that has been
Mhm.
amazing, at least for me, and I think for both of us. And
Both of us.
and we have these incredible conversations about where we're at, and they've been incredibly empowering to me, Jane. And I've told you that, before. It keeps me going, and it's especially with where we are in the world. We I hope that we wanted to come on and have these conversations
Mhm.
in a recorded space, because if somebody else gets that motivation from our conversations, or from feels empowered by that, I think that's something, Jane, that we want to share that. And so we're just gonna talk
Absolutely.
today and see where the conversation takes us,
Well,
right?
you know me, Jake. I
Mm.
can talk all night
I
long.
know, I know. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Ask me a question, Jake.
Why you are absolutely appalled with what's going on with civil rights, and I want you to tell me more about that charity that you were passionate about a couple weeks ago when we talked,
The
that you had
Southern
written there.
Poverty Law Center, the
Yes, yes, yeah.
SPLC.
Hmm.
Mhm. They've been around for quite a while, and, I would like to come back to that organization, but they basically track hate crimes, um, they track civil rights violations, they are tracking white supremacist groups. You can go on their website and see a hate tracker and go to your state and see how many, um, hate groups there are in your state. I mean, I live in a very small state, and yet there's still, like, 6 hate groups here, and it tells you what kind, whether it's a neo-Nazi group or if it's, a white supremacist, which might sound like exactly the same thing, but it's not quite. Um, Whether they are Christian nationalists. They even have, um, Black groups on there as well that are considered hate groups.
And that's I just don't get it. I don't like people. Like, why are these groups of people that just think that they have this, like, say, and can provide strong opinions about other people, the way they live, the color of their skin, like those types of things. It
Mm.
is.
Okay, that's where I would like to talk about the whole race issue.
Let's talk about it.
Again, race is a man-made concept.
Sure.
People just have different melatonin. I mean, we all have different
Right.
shades. My kids asked me when they were little, "Why does my friend have a different color skin than I do?" I'm like, "It's just, everybody has a different shade." I said, "Look, put your hand next to me. Do you have the same color as mommy?" No.
And
They did.
it's biology, right? It's like it's not about.
Where if you take the skin off of we're exactly the same
Mhm.
inside, but
Right.
they needed to justify slavery. And the Pope back in the 1400s, it was I don't know, it was Spain and Portugal, they were sending over explorers to the New World, although lots of people are already living there,
Mhm.
and they were getting all this gold, and so they needed more workers because the native populations, they were basically killing them all off, and so they needed an excuse, they needed a reason that it's okay to bring these people to the New World, these Africans to the New World. So the Pope basically just said that they're animals. Look at the
Right.
way they live. This is back in the 1400s.
And that created that
Well,
division, right?
it
That's where.
created the idea that the color of your skin determines your worth and where you fit into society. That's like the beginning of it. And then when the English colonists were coming over to North America, they discovered all this rich, fertile land that they could grow things, and they needed more workers too because they could not entice anybody to come work for basically nothing from England. So, this whole thing about African slaves had already started before the English, but they were like, "All right, what can we do? We can't enslave the native population because they know the land too well." and they can
Right.
just go to another tribe and they'll blend in beautifully. We won't know. You know what I mean?
Right.
But if we bring Africans over here, well, their skin color gives it all away. You know their status by the fact that they have dark skin.
Isn't it so interesting that what you just said, talking about 1400s, right? And, back in our history, has these parallels to our Mexican border and some
Yeah.
of the conversations that is happening with us, right? Like we're talking about how agriculture jobs, they didn't, Americans didn't want to do it. And that's kind of where the Mexican and the Hispanic,
Mhm.
Latin American
And by the
community came
way,
up. Right.
that was their land.
Right. Right.
So, calling people illegal on their own land is pretty fucking crazy in my opinion. But going back to the history lesson,
Mhm.
why would poor white people side with rich white people who were basically holding them down? Just like today with the billionaires, tech
Mhm.
bros, whatever, and you have these poorer,
Yeah.
rural, usually white people who will side with the billionaires instead of siding with people who are in a similar position as they are. That's why they support Trump. So going back again, there was this period, there was a rebellion, and I'm trying to remember the name of it, having a menopause
Oh,
moment here.
you're fine.
Um,
History was
no,
my worst
but
subject. I couldn't remember any of it. So that's why I love talking to you, Jane.
thank you. Love talking to you, Jake. So anyway, so there's this rebellion where the indentured servants that were
Mhm.
white had sided with the enslaved black people and were
Mhm.
fighting against the government. But this was during the colonial era. And they were like, oh my God, what if all of these there's far more of them than there are of us. So how can we make these poor white people side with us? And they essentially just told them, well, things might be hard for you, but you will always be better than the black people.
So it was like
And
that
that's
comparison.
where we're still at to this day. That's where we're at. These poor white people are saying, well, at least we're not black. And so it's so ingrained in their heads. I mean, white supremacy, especially, I say the South, it certainly was everywhere, but not
Right.
like it was in the South. And
Mhm.
it was so ingrained in them. They After the Civil War, they lost. They couldn't admit that they lost. And we had the 13th Amendment passed, which freed all the slaves. We had the 14th Amendment passed, which said anybody born here is a citizen. And it basically rewrote the whole Bill of Rights and said the states have to follow it now. You can't make up your own shit. And then we had the 15th Amendment, which gave black men the right to vote. Okay. And what you saw happen was the KKK starts in order to, try to suppress the black
Suppress it.
vote.
Right.
And the people that were in control of Congress at the time, they were called radical Republicans because if you recall, Abe Lincoln was a Republican, but back then, the Republican Party, they did not like slavery. They were
Mm.
anti-slavery. So the party platforms had
Right.
switched in the 20th century completely. So when people bring up the Democrats, they're the ones who brought about Jim Crow. Well, yeah, the Democrats of yesteryear, not
Right.
the Democrats of today. The platforms switched completely in the mid 20th century, this
And that's
1960s.
just a nice way that people like throw in a twisted narrative or a twisted
Mhm.
rationale in the middle of
Exactly.
all of this chaos. Right.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So after the Civil War, you had these women, the Daughters of the Confederacy, United UDC, the United Daughters of the Confederacy. They would not let it go that their daddies had lost, their brothers had lost, their husbands had lost. We'd all lost. They rewrote history. These were women who did this. They wrote textbooks that only in the South you had to be approved. These textbooks had to be approved by white citizens councils and such. And the UDC was in charge of all that. They're the ones who raised all the money to put up all the Confederate statues everywhere. And they rewrote the whole narrative. And because there was so much violence against black people down south, the radical Republicans in Congress said, "Well, we have to send the troops back down there to occupy the South in order to protect these citizens." So they sent the troops down south. They occupied the South. I don't know if they sent them. There were already some there, but they turned it into 5 military districts, and it was the United States Army that between 1865 and or maybe 1866 and 1877 that was down there protecting Black people, Black men in their voting rights and protecting them when they won office. They were in the US Congress. Black people won um, positions in state legislatures. They took over state legislatures.
And what year
And
was that?
this is this is called the Reconstruction period.
So that
So
period is
is 1865 to
wow.
1877. Now, that's 12 years. The South was occupied that whole time, so they
Mhm.
couldn't abuse Black people. But there was the election of 1876 that Rutherford B. He basically it was a really I'm not gonna go into all the details of it. Let's just say he didn't really outright win.
Mhm.
It was brought to the House of Representatives because that's what happens when there's no clear winner in the Electoral College. It goes
Okay.
to the House of Representatives. So he made a deal with the House. The Democrats, the Southern Democrats, who were basically like today's MAGA Republicans.
Oh, wow.
Important distinction to make. And he said, "All right, you give me the presidency and we'll take the troops out. So you can do whatever the hell you want to Black people." And they ran the Black um, elected representatives out of office, literally went after them with weapons and drove them out of office. Then they'd go slaughter Black people in the streets. In any election that came up, I mean, there was a high percentage of Black voting during that Reconstruction period. Once those troops left and the KKK and all the other groups came around, they would go to the polling places. They wouldn't allow Black people to vote. They'd terrorize them. And then they got really creative when all of their terror campaigns seemed so vile when they were reported up north.
Mhm.
Um, they were like, "Well, we need to change our tactics." And then you had grandfather clauses, meaning if your grandfather couldn't vote, you can't vote. Literacy tests. They'd take an illiterate white person and basically say, "Here's the test," and they would not pass the test, and they'd be like, "Okay, you can vote." A Black person would come in and could read the whole friggin' thing. It didn't matter. They would fail that person. They couldn't vote. So you had literacy tests, you had grandfather clauses, you had poll taxes. So if you hadn't paid your poll tax for, let's say you weren't allowed to vote essentially since 1870 when the 15th Amendment was ratified,
Mhm.
you have to catch up on all the years that you didn't pay your poll tax. So they essentially made it impossible. You had to save up
Ugh,
for
gross.
all the years that you weren't allowed to vote. It's insane. So that's what's happened. And the South really dug deep into this narrative that Black people are inferior. And anytime a Black community rose up, like in Tulsa, they would just destroy it. They would massacre everybody. They went into the Greenwood section and there was a this was like, it was called Black Wall Street.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Black Wall Street, and they went in and they burned and they looted and they killed and they ran the whole Black population basically out of town because they were becoming too successful. And wait a minute, they can't be successful. We're supposed to be successful. Aren't they inferior? Well, fuck this. Let's get rid of them. Now we'll make the money. It's always about this,
Money.
but it's also that mindset. We're better than they are. We could be poor. We could literally have an outhouse and dirt floors in our house, but we're better than they are.
And I think that's what's happening.
Right.
I think that's one of the core concepts
Mhm,
of the MAGA movement
mhm.
is we should, these are, very rural Caucasian individuals, right? Have that envy, right?
They
Have
they
that.
do.
Mhm.
But no,
Now,
it's more I feel like today it's more grievance oriented. I mean, a lot of people are really struggling. I mean, shit. I'm struggling, you know? We're all
We're
struggling,
all
but
struggling.
this is how Donald Trump appealed to them, these poor folk down south in particular, but also across the Midwest and
Yeah.
wherever. He basically gave them a common enemy. First of all, Donald Trump is a white supremacist, so he had no problem kicking blacks to the curb, essentially,
Right.
and telling them to go hate on them. You hated on them back in the day, go hate on them again. He had no problem saying that. And then he said, also those immigrants, they're raping your women. It's the same thing that they said about black people. Did you see Birth of a Nation?
Yeah.
That
Mhm.
yeah, The Birth of a Nation, D.W. Griffith or something like that. It was came out during Woodrow Wilson's presidency during World War I. And he showed it at the White House. He was a white supremacist.
And
And
that's
mhm, sorry, you go.
no, keep going, keep going. I mean,
I feel like I'm teaching my class right now.
no, I think that's good, right? We wanna get your that's what we want to hear. I mean, I know it's again, I mean, we talked about it on, earlier is it's the more information that all of us can have, it's that's what's valuable. Like I told you, like history was not my subject. It was always during those years. I find it much more fascinating today than I did when I was younger. And so I have a knowledge gap that I'm constantly educating myself. And so I love these conversations where we can do that. And I encourage other people to do that as well. We can learn a lot from, the mistakes in particular that we're talking about right now, from our, from our past to
Mhm.
do this. And
I think it's important that people understand that this isn't something that just happened under Donald Trump. This this rot has been there the whole time, and people kind of brushed it under the rug a bit
and I
because there was criticism. People were like, "Wait, you can't do that anymore." So they hid their racism a little bit. And then Donald Trump said, "Unleash it all. Go ahead, unleash it." And they were like, "Finally, somebody said we can be who we
hear
really
it,
are."
which
A
is
bunch of
disgusting. But so it's we know these things, we see these things. One of the biggest thorns in my side right now is um the awareness messaging. Actually, Aaron Parnas, talked about it today. Well, Trump has some $1.7 billion payout of taxpayer money that's
yeah,
going out. Yeah,
that is
you commented on it. You actually commented on it, or you put like the $1 that it was that post,
I said not $1.
not $1, right? And
Mm,
so, it kind of what Aaron had said is kind of he's like, I can't believe people aren't as upset about
right,
this.
but they're not outraged.
And to me, that is there's something that there's a why in all of that that I'm really curious to get to the bottom of. And especially with my initiatives and with my work and what I'm doing, I'm trying, the focus for me right now is to empower people to mobilize together to create an economic collective response, right? And to stop. What drives me crazy right now is that we are literally reliant on the people who are oppressing us, which is exactly how they want it. Okay.
Yeah.
But you have to stop at some point and you have to understand that.
How do we alright, think about this. My platform is on Instagram,
Mhm.
Facebook, TikTok, I guess Threads and other ones too. Well, I don't
Threads
know,
is
my
Meta.
daughter posts a
Threads
lot.
is
So
Meta.
a ton of them are Meta. I mean, I'm
Mhm.
on Substack too, but that is it's a whole different
Different beat
ecosystem.
for
Yeah,
sure.
it's a different thing, and when I'm done teaching this year, I'm gonna focus a lot more on Substack, um, because
I've
it
just
can't.
started posting things on Substack. I have no idea what I'm doing, I'll be honest. But
Yeah, I don't
it
really get
I know
it.
it I know it's different, but it's supposed to be it was originally what? It was originally for newsletters, I think, was the like, kind
Well,
of
that's what I started I went for Heather Cox Richardson's newsletter.
yeah, and that's the now they're
Disparity.
doing the lives seem to be kind of trending over there as well as, the video. I've been doing some but okay, so back to the point we were saying like, okay, look, it's either it's TikTok, which is now Ellison,
Yep,
right?
yep.
It's YouTube, which is Google, right? And the rest is Meta.
Mhm.
And
So what do we do? Like, that's how we're getting the word out, but they could also just shut it all down tomorrow.
Correct. And
So,
so,
what do we do?
well, I mean, that's why on Dark Yarn's website, I just changed I think it's publishing on Monday, but it's now instead of like a pop up sign up for promos, it's send us your email so we can be sure we can reach you.
Yeah, I feel like
You know?
putting that actually was considering just getting a website and saying and collecting people's emails too, because people have said that to me. What are we gonna do if we can't watch your content, or we can't see you or talk to you or whatever? And I'm like,
I mean, there's plenty, and that's one of my things to all of these creators and that we kind of know and like within our networks and things like that is I want people to look a little bit farther ahead. Okay. We
Mhm.
seem to be in this reactionary culture and we're already behind and we just keep kicking the ball down the road. We don't actually pick the ball up.
Mhm.
Like how many 6 months ago or 5 months ago when we saw each other in January, the economy was in a better shape than it was today.
Oh
Okay.
yeah. Mhm.
And that was the opportunity to start moving things in our favor. That was, when Minneapolis was happening, that was all of these types of things. There's an opportunity to kind of take some giant steps. But instead, what we did is we just kind of kept following the cycles. We kept following the headlines. We then got onto the Iran thing. We
Right.
then
Well,
started following all of this crisis, all this crisis. And what's happening is that nothing's really getting solved. And I know
sorry, I keep interrupting.
no, I want you to interrupt. I'm just trying to land the plane, which is
Well, you had brought up
mhm,
like, why do people keep, um or the Aaron Parnas thing,
yeah,
how, why isn't there more outrage about all of this? The answer is because which outrage are we gonna react to first? There's so much to be outraged about that, and that is the goal, to flood the zone with shit so
mhm,
that we're all
love the zone.
overwhelmed
That's
and we don't know which side to look. I mean, Aaron Parnas has a ginormous platform. He can say that.
but
I don't
people
think
still aren't gonna but here's and again, Aaron, we both love you, but
yes,
this isn't criticism on you
kudos.
at all, and your media and all of those things, but and this is what I need I desire for people to start collaborating with others like I don't have a giant social media platform, okay? But I'm an architect, right? Like I can build systems, I can build businesses, I know how to build infrastructure with
And
my
you have
correct,
with
correct,
your company. You
correct.
should, yeah.
Well, I have, and we can look. It's all over the place, and we'll talk about this more. But yeah, I have built something that can absolutely create a collective economy. Can absolutely move millions of dollars, right? And it taps in to aspects of our culture. I did a whole bit today about it on tangibility. Americans need to touch something when they spend.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
um,
that's true. I mean, when I get those emails and for donations, I barely ever do it, but if they say they'll send me a cool sticker, I'll send them a few dollars.
tangibility. And
That's right.
you don't go to a barbecue with your family and say, I donated $5 to the Women's Foundation of X, Y, and Z, or you don't talk about that. But when you do go to a barbecue, you do say, hey, I love your hat. Where
Mhm.
can I get one? Oh, I'll get you one for your birthday, right? I'm going to do that. We're going to put this under the tree for Christmas, right?
Right.
We're going to do this. We're going to do that, right? You start to create this ecosystem. And then all of a sudden, while you guys are just living your lives and doing everything, you've just built a war chest of resources.
Because what people need to understand is that part of the money from each of the purchases goes to, a cause, whatever. Yeah.
Right.
So it's the money you're gonna, you buy a sweatshirt or a hat or whatever it may be, and right on on Jake's website there, it shows how much of the money that you're paying goes to what particular cause.
which is unique. And I actually was doing a bunch of
Mhm.
research on this. You know, there's a lot of other brands that say 5% of proceeds, right?
Yeah.
10% of
Yeah, what does
proceeds.
that mean exactly?
Okay, exactly. It means that a business, let's start at the top level, right? It means that a business is going to give a portion of what they make to the cause in which they're advertising for, right? A lot of brands do it. It's called cause marketing. It is a way to kind of connect goodwill to your business. All right.
Mhm,
And great, it's amicable, but from an operation standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, it's exactly what it is. It's a marketing strategy. Okay. When Apple made all of the red iPhones, yeah, they raised a bunch of money for AIDS, AIDS Foundation. I don't remember exactly which one it was. This was years ago,
I
but
don't remember that.
it's it doesn't really have that oomph, that fight, that like it's not as generous as it's packaged. Let's just we put
Right,
it
well, if you're saying proceeds,
right.
10% of
So that's layer
proceeds.
2.
Yeah,
Proceeds is an ambiguous term,
yeah,
okay? In the world of business, you have revenue, gross profit, operating expenses, and then you get down to your EBITDA, right? Which is like net profit.
mhm,
And proceeds are all the way at the bottom, okay? You would consider proceeds to be EBITDA, right? That's salaries, that's marketing expenses, operating expenses, all of these types of things. So let's say you sell $1 million of something, right?
mhm,
And you make $100,000 from it, and you're giving 5% of that, money. That's 5K, right? So 5K of $1 million in revenue is what you're donating. And that is technically 5% of your proceeds. And the truth is that you can manipulate your expenses to what you need it to be to determine how much you donate. So,
and so
so,
there are people that oh, see, I hate people sometimes.
but I mean, look, it's part of it, and that's why we chose to do it different. I didn't want to get into this 5%, 10% thing. I wanted it to be when with top line revenue, right?
Mhm,
Top line revenue and the product is where you should see what your contribution is, especially in this situation. Okay.
absolutely.
And that to me is the easiest and most transparent way to do it. I mean, we even have like a little script right now where like code script where when a product is purchased, it's all in like databases, the donation amount, it sets it aside. Like it's not even
Yeah,
commingled. Like it's
$5 says you're gonna put $5 towards it, $5 goes right into that
goes right into that
silo.
goes right into that bucket. And to me, that is a transparent way to do it. It's
Mhm.
straightforward. You know what you're raising. It's easy for us to account. There's no grays. It, it just it sets up a different model. And
So there are
I
no
believe
other companies that do that?
no, because they don't have even you and I talked about it, right? With like pricing, like how much does a sweatshirt cost, right? How much does
Right.
this cost? Like sometimes they can be, um, they want to stay competitive within that, within that space. And my argument with that is that I think that business, Dark Yarn, myself, and everybody who's on board with what we're doing will be much more appreciative of that full transparency upfront. Like if I have to raise my prices to make that better, I would rather tell you about that than
Mhm.
hide it and make myself seem like I'm doing more good than I actually am.
Right.
Right?
So an honest approach to business. Whoa.
Oh, novel
Novel.
concept. Um, and something that Ben from Ben and Jerry's, I don't know if you know this, but I actually in college worked for Ben and Jerry's for years.
Like
Um,
scooping ice cream?
Scoop and ice cream, but I worked the franchise. I was like kind of like ran the franchises in like
Okay.
out west, and so that was I had a functioning role within the corporate environment at Ben and Jerry's, and it was an incredible learning experience at the beginning of my career where you knew the product and the ice cream that was coming in. You knew it was quality ingredients. You knew it wasn't compromised. It was
Mhm.
core part of the training, how everything worked at Ben and Jerry's in that sustainable model. And it kind of set me on a solidified goals for me on how businesses that I wanted, that I was going to be involved in. Um, that's what it was a fantastic model to emulate moving forward in my career. Um, but the other day, he's right now having a lot of trouble with Unilever and Magnum ice cream because they did sell Ben and Jerry's years
Mm.
ago. And they're trying to buy Ben and Jerry's back. And he said something the other day that was really interesting, where he said, business is supposed to be the wealthy part of your community. It is by design. It's supposed to make money. Okay. It's supposed to be it is supposed to be a monetary authority in a certain way within a community. And that's an obligation, and that requires responsibility. And that's always how Ben and Jerry's operated, was to where the social impact and the boards and how that all worked. That's a core part of how he ran his company. And I can't tell you how much I believe in that, right?
Yeah.
That I am asking people on volume right now to, if you can, like, buy something from Dark Yarn, and we take that responsibility incredibly seriously. Like, I'm not the money guy, but like, we have like accountants and lawyers, and we're going to do the right thing, right? Like with it to get it to where it needs to be.
Well, I
And
think that's gonna be the hardest part of the sell, to be honest,
is
because
what
people don't trust that businesses will do the right thing anymore.
did you follow this whole Spirit Airlines 2.0 thing? I know we
I've
talked
only
about it
seen
a little bit.
I only know the minimum that I don't know why they would be going out of business, that I don't know, but the fact that the public, wanted to buy I don't know, they wanted to invest in it, to save it and whatever. That's all I know, really.
There's really two parts with it. One is, it's whenever you have a massive shutdown of a corporation, like, there's tons of flight attendants, there's tons of employees. I even have a friend of mine here in, Atlanta, who no longer has a job, worked for the corporate offices. And um, so there's that aspect of it, that people want to help those flight attendants that are out of work and all of those things. And
Mhm,
then Spirit was a low cost carrier. So what they did is they enabled a competitive way to travel that had prices down. And when your prices were so low, it then made the big guys, it was harder for them to push prices up because they had to
mhm,
compete with the lower level carriers.
mhm.
uh, Kind of a cost balancing act. So that was the second. They don't have to do that anymore, Jane. Like, they can now charge whatever they want for flights.
Yeah. Oh, and they will, and
Of
probably
course,
already are.
they already are. Um, and so anyway, blanking on his name right now, Hunter, I think his name. He went in, he kind of did this whole thing. He's the CEO of, and it was great. And they got a lot of pledges and things like that. But what's interesting about it, I deep dove it last night, is that anybody who made a contribution, or anybody who would, there was one price of a ticket, which was $45. Everyone got a vote. So it's like one vote. And that vote is about, voting rights within corporate policies, and kind of shareholder type votes.
Mhm,
And that was how they were going to keep it streamlined, so that not one person, no matter, even if one person gave $100,000 or one person gave $45, it was still an equal voting right for the
right.
company. And I am really enchanted by that model, actually. And I am working on doing that from the philanthropic side of Dark Yarn, where, as a customer, it doesn't matter how much you spend, it's your first purchase enables you to now vote where we allocate the funds. So we will open up on a monthly basis for, different charities and organizations who are doing the good work, apply for grants, and we're going to send that out on an email, and we'll put a vote out, right? And then you, as a customer of Dark Yarn, get to choose. We're going to send it to where you, as our customer base, decides. And it's a kind of a, we don't want to make the decisions. We want we want people to make the decisions. And I think I'm really excited about that. I think that will be fun. Is that you, as a customer for life, now have a vote to where our impact funds raise
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
I think it's cool.
I think so too. It's interesting. I mean, I hadn't really thought about it before right now, but yeah.
But I think it's,
Cool.
it answers, again, I'm a strategist, so I listen to what people are responding to right now and
Mhm.
what people want. I don't wanna do this isn't about what I want. This is really about what's gonna get us there, right?
And where's there
For me or in general?
in general? Well, you could do either one. You or in general
I
or
would
both.
love for Dark Yarns Impact I would love for us to have a giant stack of cash, okay, that we can show up to the fights that are pivotal.
Mhm.
Minneapolis was pivotal,
Yeah.
okay? Um, Roe v. Wade was pivotal. Um, those types of things, as if we have the resources to respond reciprocally.
Okay. What does that look like though? I'm like, okay, in Minneapolis, let's say
Mhm.
you had that stack of cash. Where would that stack of what would you have spent it on? If there were like certain organizations that
Lawyers, organizations,
mm,
food, shelter, like, I mean, think about it's like the Red Cross, right? Like, you show up to the disaster and
yeah,
whether it's legal, whether it's resources, whether it's medical, whether it's food insecurity, whether it's housing insecurity. I mean, the truth of the matter is, and what people are not talking about right now is what was the term again? I keep blanking it with all the headlines. So
the
it's
what do you with all the headlines, you mean what they're doing to us?
how they flood the
Flood the zone.
flood the
Flood
zone.
the
When we all
zone.
flood the zone, nobody is looking in the rearview mirror right now. Nobody is looking at
Well,
the
I am because
what
I
you
look
are,
at history.
but nobody is looking at the massive destruction that has gone through the social impact systems that are keeping Americans stable. Right?
That is true. I mean, there've been community what do they call those? Community not food bank. I mean, there's food
Yeah,
banks. There's
mutual aid,
mutual aid society,
of
yes,
course.
mutual aid.
Of course,
Um,
and I'm not saying people aren't doing the work, but I don't think people are talking about the scale in which it has been dismantled, right? So we have like millions of Americans losing health insurance, SNAP
mhm,
benefits being taken away from single mothers, the transgendered issues with rights and just these people transgendered people being afraid to go outside, not being able to get their medical care, people not being able to make choices about reproductive choices and having I mean, there are big consequences to that.
huge.
The
Yeah.
Department of USAID, there are hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions of people, dying across the world
Yes.
right now because of that.
Because of that, and, I don't know if people understand, like, a lot of people hear that we're giving money to different countries, and they're like, "Well, why are we doing that?" Well, it's soft power. It's
Mhm.
the country's soft power. So, after, World War II and during the Cold War, I mean, sometimes we did some horrible things, but one of the good things we did was go in and try to
Right.
have people get clean drinking water and to eradicate certain diseases that were, preventable diseases. And right with the AIDS, that was one of the
Mhm.
things
Well, the big one.
it's a big one. And now there's bunches of kids in Africa, that's what I had read, um, that have AIDS and they're getting sick and this was all preventable. I mean, I don't feel like I'm anywhere near an expert when it comes to this stuff, but I do know that my best friend's sister, um, she had an organization that worked with USAID, and so, any company, any foundation, basically, whatever organization that worked with USAID, everybody got fired. And her whole neighborhood she's in for no, she was in Maryland. Her whole neighborhood is a bunch of people that worked for the government in different capacities, but a bunch of them for USAID that are unemployed. She said
Yeah.
it is so grim down there. They've been unemployed for over a year. Some of the people are getting jobs like they had, they have homes, they have families, they had a standard of living, which their income was
Right.
supporting, and now it's like they don't have nearly enough.
And so that's kind of my whole point is we're just watching the train derail.
Oh,
Okay.
and
And
derailed.
right. But when a train derails, you're right. It has been derailed. But the thing about a train derailment is that the momentum of the train, you can watch the pile up for hours. It doesn't stop. And that's what we're doing right now. Right. We're just watching all of the cars barrel into each other. And all of those people that need jobs, the way that I look at things is okay, get up, right? Come together. Let's call Dark Yarn. Let's put a big seminar out there. Let's put it out on our platforms. Let's talk to the people of USAID, right? Let's figure out how we're going to raise funds, right? So that you guys can start patching this together, start finding the solutions for it.
I
That's
can't
kind of
believe that there were not more people who I don't even know if anybody came together when this all fell apart. Like, wouldn't it have been nice if all the millionaires and billionaires with good hearts who don't support MAGA, well, you have a bunch of money you'll never be able to spend in your lifetime. Why didn't they put money towards it? Like, why? We had the government doing this particular function. The government is dropping it. So who steps in? Well, it's the people with money who step in.
Jane Converse steps in. Jake steps in, right? That's like kind of the whole. That's who needs to step in. Are people? I mean, you have to. Okay, like I take a different approach to it. You have 100 people that are used to doing really great work for the world and for human health, all sitting around in a grim environment.
Mhm.
Let's stop. Let's move past the victim like kind of thing here, and let's start building. Let's do something. I'm doing it. This is what I have to bring to the table. I have a massive apparel infrastructure. Like I can ship and produce. I did comparison 10,000 orders a day right now. I can probably do more. 10,000 is my conservative number. Okay. That I know we can handle. That's a nice
Mhm.
chunk of change. We can start putting things back together. I mean, we have to do it privately. The government is being gutted financially.
We're literally back to social Darwinism in the Gilded Age right now. People the government back then, the government never really except for Reconstruction, our history is just full of greedy bastards who didn't care about people's civil rights whatsoever. That was not
No.
even they didn't think that was the government's role. They thought the government should be supporting business, and basically, it was like the early model of trickle-down economics, but of course, they always hoard it at the top, and those people at the top back in the first Gilded Age, I call this one the second Gilded Age, um, those people didn't believe in giving a handout to somebody. They just didn't. They were like, why would we do that?
Mhm.
They are where they are because that's where they're supposed to be. But they would leave all of their money to make universities, like libraries, like parks, etc., that people could access. And they believed, at least Andrew Carnegie did, he said that if you die with any money in the bank, then you did a shit job, essentially.
Mhm.
You shouldn't be dying with any money in the bank. You can't take it with you. So now, like, Donald Trump is accumulating massive amounts of money now through us. He's just taking our money. Um, and he's 80. He's turning 80 in a month. A
There
month
is
from less
I
than a month.
I believe fully, and people now I hope for it. Remember the war on drugs, how it all got
Ugh,
crazy, right?
yeah, yeah.
We have a financial crime
Mhm.
is going to be a severe. We are going to rewrite laws at the end of this. That financial crime will get you will like
Well, that's what happened after the first Gilded Age. There was the
Mhm,
Progressive Era, and there were a bunch of laws passed that were antitrust laws, so no
mhm.
monopolies, and that getting children out of the workforce and having worker protections and all that. That all followed the first Gilded Age. And the thing is, we still had some people in government who actually cared about helping people. Now, I believe this era will end, this crime spree, it will end, but we have to get a whole different kind of person in government, and that's gonna be the trickiest thing that we could ever do, and it needs to be done because right now you've got a bunch of people who go in there. Some of them are rich when they go into Congress, but when they leave, almost all of them are rich. They make less than $200,000 a year. How do you get rich? Oh, on insider trading? Oh, by taking money from people? That we need people who are drawn to public service to do good, not to
Mhm.
enrich themselves, who will pass those laws. So a person like me, who people keep saying, "Are you going to run for office? Are you going to run for office? You need to run for office." I've been told that since I was in second grade.
Right.
Okay, and I'm one of those people who's like, um, well, I don't know if I wanted to do that, but at the same time, like, but wait a second, you're exactly the kind of person who should, because
Right, and
I would
that's
do it for the right reasons.
I mean, same. I mean, I say this line so many times. The last thing that I wanna be is just another white dude with a bunch of shit, you know? Like, that sounds awful. There's no reason. I like to live in a nice place. I like to go on vacations. I like to drive a nice car. But other than that, I mean, that doesn't require billions of dollars. The rest of my life can be enriched with relationships and experiences. I don't need all of these
That's
possessions, you
right.
know?
That's what a full life is supposed to be.
Correct.
You're supposed to be based on your relationships.
Mhm.
And building communities and being part of something that's real, not gathering things. Like I find that as I get older, now during my 30s, and I was married to a guy who had some bucks, and we had a big ginormous house, and I had to fill this house full of stuff, all these doodads and gadgets
Mhm.
and whatever. And when I got divorced in my 40s, I looked at it, I'm like, what the hell is all this shit for? Like, what?
Right. Yeah.
And I got to a certain point, right around 50, which I know I look far young.
Kinda. You look 40.
Mm.
Mhm.
Anyway, when I hit around 50, I started to think in terms of, well, what's gonna happen to all this shit when I die? Will my kids even want it? Like, what's the point? Why don't I just start getting rid of stuff now? Ask them what they want and just start getting rid of the stuff I don't need. Like,
Yeah. I think that's really healthy, you know?
that's where it comes to. You hit a certain age and you're just like, this is meaningless. Unless you're a person who literally bases their self worth on how much money is in their bank account and how many cars they have and how many houses they have and if they have a private jet. Those kind of people are the people that are in office. And we need them to go. We need to go. And here's my plan. Right now for this upcoming midterm, I'm just telling people, I don't care. Vote Democrat, it doesn't matter where they're getting their fucking money. We know that they're gonna punish Trump, and we know they're gonna do something. We know
Right.
that he will get if we get a supermajority in the Senate, we will get rid of him, his cabinet, his whole administration. That's a possibility, that's real. But for 28 for 2028, we need to start right now finding people who are going to be good-hearted public servants who want to change this up to plug whether it's plugging all the holes in the Constitution, of which there
100%.
are far too many, certainly getting rid of the Electoral College, which was there just for the southern states, by the way, so that they had more power, which
Yep.
is biting everybody in the ass. So get rid of the Electoral College and get you know what I'm saying. Bottom line is we need to start picking those people now for 2028 so that when we have that opportunity, we can fill Congress with people who are gonna do good. So right now, I'm like, I don't give a shit what clown. As long as they say they are a real Democrat, we can see that with their voting record,
Mhm.
who they take money from. I don't even fucking care right
Right.
now. I don't care. I just want to
And
get rid of
that's
these
but so that's and
officers.
we've talked about this too, and this is something that everybody needs to hear. The left and progressives are obsessed with ideology, okay? And I wanna be very clear, I agree
So do I.
with the ideologies, okay? Like, we're not that's not a disagreement, okay? But it's an order of operations conversation, okay? And it's about
Yeah.
step 1, step 2, step 3, 4, 5, 6 to the goal, right? But when
Mhm.
you make decisions at step 1 based on an ideology that is step 10,
Yeah.
you are never going to get to step 10.
People need to truly understand that if any of these very important issues, which I know I went on a rant on a live the other day about this,
I loved
but
it.
any
I love your
I
rant.
was like, "I'm losing my mind."
I know, I
Um,
know.
but all of these important issues, whether it's trans rights or reproductive rights or voting rights or the whole spectrum, whether it's has to do with foreign policy and all this stuff, nothing changes
Mm,
unless you get rid of the root of the problem, which is the Republican Party under Donald Trump. They're the root of the problem. They're the reason why nothing is happening to change these issues. That and Supreme Court, which we need a whole fucking overhaul of that, but that's another story. But that's where we start. You want to change? You want to protect trans people? Get rid of the rot. Get rid of the people that are making it impossible to do so. You want to stop sending money to um Ir- to sorry, to Israel? You want to stop doing that? So you don't want to support a genocide? You got to stop the people who are in charge right now. Get rid of them.
right. You gotta stop the people who are supporting that, that type of behavior. And that's step 1. We
Yeah.
see, and I wish I ask people, and this is the siloed nature of where we are. Even within our own network, Jane, we have seen this
Mhm.
behavior, the political, people who talk, the political creators and things like that out there. There's a big lack of consolidation and
Mhm.
stepping as one. And what that happens then is we have all of these opinions and ideologies that just get thrown out. Oh, what was
I don't know
that?
if I went like this. I don't
Oh
know.
yeah, you're on an iPhone. You get you put a thumbs up and it
I'm on
sends
my computer, but yeah, whatever. There
Anyway,
you go. I have a different
uh,
finger.
there you go. I love it. But why
Real fractured.
we're
The
fractured
progressives, even the
and the
progressives are fractured.
and the and the and and people need to put their egos aside and let somebody drive a ship forward. I always talk about this in leadership, and I've led some pretty big organizations. Leadership is a function. Okay. It is not about an ego. It is not about doing something. The best leaders put together the strongest and most powerful teams, and they
And
know
a
how to
team of
motivate.
rivals.
Correct.
Yes. That's what
Yeah.
Abe Lincoln did. He
Yep.
got a team of people that he didn't necessarily agree with, but they were experts. They were gonna push him,
And your
and he
job
wanted.
as the leader is to help shape the vision and
Mhm.
drive the ship. And if we use metaphors, I'm a metaphorical guy. Is like this is a tank, like an oil tanker of an initiative. Okay, they don't move quick. They're not very nimble. They weigh tons of weight and they barely turn. Okay, so but everybody needs to get on board.
Yeah,
Okay,
and they need to you're right, put aside their egos, like, get over it. We just need to come together as one. That's the one thing Republicans are so much better at than Democrats, is coming together around a single message.
and we know why though. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just it's about the time. Democrats,
No,
liberals,
they're
and progressive,
terrible. Their single message is evil.
correct. But we as I mean, I know you're Rhode Island. I grew up in Boston. I was
Mhm.
raised in a way where the soapbox was always something that was encouraged. Stand up on your soapbox, speak your mind, say what you believe in, say what you feel. Okay. You and I both, I know, agree with that 150%. But right now,
First Amendment, baby.
right. But right now, we need to we need to start standing on a larger soapbox together, okay, rather than all of our individual ones. And it's a shift in mentality, okay, of that. I understand that APAC is a perfect example right now. I'm not
Mhm.
voting for any Democrat that took APAC money.
That's the
Fair.
thing.
I understand it. All of those types of things, I still need you to vote for that Democrat right now.
Exactly, that was my point. That's what I had said the other day in my life. I was like, "I
Mhm.
don't wanna vote for somebody who took APAC money. I don't want there to be money in politics at all, but
Correct.
I will vote for that fucking Democrat who takes it, and then I'll smack them around a little bit once they're, reelected." But you know what I'm saying?
Correct.
It's like because we
You
have to challenge these people too. We wanna get them in office, we want them to do what needs to be done to get rid of this albatross off of our back, and then we need to be fucking poking the bear every single day.
right. And that's how you go from your first step to your second step, right?
Exactly,
And then we go
and
to the third
hopefully
step and the
yep,
fourth step. And so and look, this is just how the world works. Everyone thinks you're crazy until it works, until you do it. And I think and look, a lot of people don't pay me mine because I've got 4,000 followers, right? Like something like that. Like, joke's on you. I don't give a shit. I just don't give a shit, right? It's build a community, find that direction, and we have to right now, I think being like bold and strategic, but as long as you're doing it together and trying to get to step one and getting organized is what is the most important piece right now. And I want measurable results in all of this. Getting people
absolutely.
elected is measurable results. Raising money through dark yarn, other means, is measurable results. Fortunately, boycotts don't really create measurable results right now, other than measuring how many people participate.
And that is also important.
100%.
Um,
100%.
I think that's what people always say, "What's the point of going to these protests? What are you talking about? What's the point?" We're with like-minded people. You meet your community, your resistance community. Where else are you gonna find these people? We feel so alone and so trapped, and we think that I mean, it feels like the world is ending, but then
Mhm.
we meet people that are fighting. Then we meet people who believe the same things, who have the same moral values that we have, and it makes it bearable. So, if
Mhm.
for nothing else, you go to this, you meet people, you talk, you feel better at the end of the day, and you know you're not alone.
Right. I and that is incredible. I mean, it's community, right?
Totally.
Community is what you need.
And it
Um,
has the bonus of also showing the rest of the world that we're not all fucking idiots. I'm sorry I keep saying F-bombs, but
I mean,
it's
it's
getting
fine. I mean, look, I don't know if you've ever, spent time in France or, go to
yeah,
Paris.
a little.
They are, probably they're notorious for protesting and all
Oh,
that. I mean
yeah, because all roads lead to Paris. They're
right.
so centralized, you can shut down the whole country.
Mhm.
We have states, we have a federal system of government.
Right,
States have certain powers, the federal government has certain powers. We can't have a strike like the French
right,
do and have it work.
right, and I think I agree with you 100% on protesting, and I think it's fantastic. I think we're at a pivotal point right now where we need to focus on results because there's so much that's going wrong right now that the protests seem I don't wanna
I
say
dis
this.
I'm gonna say it, I'm disagreeing with
I
you
know,
already.
and it's okay, but I guess I talk to some of my, like, people in my networks, right? They get frustrated, A, because a lot of their friends and people in their lives won't go to the protests, or they feel like there are too many, and they also feel that
They're
atten
not.
what their attendance isn't doing much.
But it is. I
I
just
know.
told you
I
how.
I no, I'm telling you what people
Are
are
saying.
feeling. I agree with you. You're kidding. I think, I have nothing but amazing things. I'm trying to find a remedy to people wanna start seeing a measurable result that for some reason they don't feel that they're getting right now.
Measurable result would be to see something change.
Correct.
So, I think that's why, for me, I mean, I look at protest as being part of that change.
Okay.
I
I
mean,
agree with you.
without protest, the civil rights movement, ugh,
I don't I don't
The
I
civil
don't
rights movement wouldn't have worked, like,
I
the
need to
fact that
clarify without protests is, like, not at all I want people to feel more I want to somehow I guess I'm getting a lot of feedback, I'm having a lot of conversations where people are having trouble understanding the value of it, and even though you and I understand it, how do we get people to understand the value is the question.
well, I have my soapbox, and I definitely talk about why it's so important, but, again, I'm one voice amongst however many. It's many, many voices, and I feel like in that one regard, people have been they've had a unified front about how important it is to show up. Imagine what would happen. Think about this. Imagine if everybody that disagrees with this administration or their elected official who's not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Imagine if they showed up at their offices every day. You obviously can't have everybody, but you know what I mean? You get like a an organization for your state or you're
Mhm.
part of this whatever. I'm in a tiny state, so you get an organization and you divvy up, say, "All right, we're gonna have these 500 people go there this day, 500 more, 500, you just keep having it road like, they have to be in their faces every single day, and then, "Oh, road trip, let's get some people to get a bus, let's go down to DC."
Yeah. Mhm.
And let's go hound our Congress people. Now, I have Democrats that represent me. However, I don't like the way they vote. I don't like that they take APAC money. I don't like it. And I'm not going to sit by and allow that to happen without me at least saying to their faces, how dare they? And that we will primary the fuck out of you at your next election because we can't stand for it anymore. One of my senators, he got into office and I don't wanna name names, but, um, he got into office and, like, it was right after it was right before Citizens United, where they said the Supreme Court is such fucking geniuses.
Mhm.
Corporations are people, so they can give as much money as they want. That changed the whole dynamic in DC, by the way, completely changed it,
Mhm.
okay? So he said he was in office for, like, a year or 2 maybe when that decision was made, and he said after that, he said, "The whole problem with Washington right now is money and politics." And after that decision, people didn't even, like, talk to one another anymore. It's all about get who can get the money, blah, blah, blah. Well, here I was, this was, like, 2018 at the time, and I brought my students down there. He kept saying, "It was the worst decision the court ever made. We've gotta get money out of politics, gotta get money out of politics, blah, blah, blah. It's all crap." I look up who gives him money, I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" Are you kidding me?
Yep.
How dare you?
Right.
You're a hypocrite on a grand scale. We can't be taking you have to have your principles, man. Eh
I know, but that's the again, that's the same step 1 to step 10. There's so many progressive candidates right now that are running with money out of politics as a policy basis, okay?
Mhm.
And yet in the exact same sentence, they ask for money. And it's
It's different when it's grassroots, though.
correct. I correct, but words matter and the messaging isn't clear is what I'm trying to say.
Alright, see, I know
And
I've never looked at that as unclear. If you're raising like, Obama did it back in '08,
mhm,
and this is when the internet was barely even functioning. At least it didn't seem like it, but he did a whole thing, a grassroots campaign. The average donation was what, $8 or $17, whatever the hell it was. Bernie Sanders does the same thing. AOC does the same thing. Donnie did the same thing. It worked. You can have success doing grassroots organizing, campaigning, raising funds. It
Eureka. Kata did a fantastic job, raised millions with that too, with her,
just grassroots?
just grassroots, yeah. Um, and I think that to land my plane, I think where my discount, you're completely right, especially on policy, protesting is what everybody needs to do. The boycotts recently are what gets under my skin.
I
Um,
find them and I know I'm gonna piss people off saying it, but I find them to be in the federal system that we of government that we have and how big our country is and
mhm,
how all roads don't lead to Washington, DC.
right.
You know? They lead to the state capitol. So, you can't have a boycott that is going to be truly it's not gonna have a real effect unless, like, let's say you had to get the teachers' unions on board, and
Mhm.
all the teachers don't show up to work, and the union's okay with it, you know what I mean? It's like you had there's all this stuff. I mean, I could boycott going to work, but as a teacher, I think about it, and I was like, then I'm letting my students leaving them alone,
Right,
I let them down. You know,
right,
those things went through my head. Now, was I saying, "Hey, go, go general strike?" Yeah, I because it wasn't just a strike, it was protest,
right, and
and
so
that's
that
what I supported, really.
and that's what and that's what crosses it, and, that's why I say right now, boycotts, especially with financial matters, the answer is redirection.
Yes, but I will say one thing, like, boycotting Target
Mhm.
has had a huge effect on it. Boycotting, Amazon. I mean, we came to depend on Amazon. We got very creative, you know? What else? I mean, I have a
Uh,
hard time.
Disney
What's that? Disney, yeah,
Disney was
Disney,
a
Hulu,
successful one.
whatever.
And
That
but
was
and look, when they are company or issue specific, they can be massively effective, okay?
mhm,
Um, the boycotts of mass spending, Black Friday blackouts, like no work, no school, no shopping type of initiatives, they don't seem to, again, like, that's that measurable result, right? You don't see those measurables until earnings come out, and they just kind of reshift things and don't announce them. If they're cause specific, like the Target situation, massively successful. Target's having trouble.
I think that what could have been clearer about I mean, when you say no shopping, for me, it meant don't use your credit card and only go to small businesses locally, no chains. To me, that was my form of and usually is my form of
Right.
boycott. I don't like going into chain stores and all that stuff. Um, but that's how I look at it. If people spend they are consciously spending, which brings us back to dark yarn and your goal for it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's my I look at it this way. Aloe, the malls, all of here's the opportunity that I see, right? Aloe, Lululemon, Viore, name every clothing company out
I
there.
only knew Lululemon that you said, I don't even know the other ones.
Nordstrom's, like Bloomingdale's, like any of these retailers, if all of a sudden, let's say Dark Yarn were here to get the message across to everyone, and everyone was just like, I am only buying my clothes and whatever Dark Yarn is offering, where there's a dollar amount attached to it. And all of that business starts to go, and we start building what we were talking about earlier, right? This
Mhm,
like massive movement. Well, there's two things that the other clothing retailers and businesses have to do. One, they can either adopt a similar policy and start
mhm,
contributing in a way to bring customers back. You now create a gate. You start gatekeeping them, and you say, we will come back to you if you start contributing to social impact in this way, right? Into fixing our world. That's what it requires. And so they're either going to change, or the second thing is that then collectively, Washington then says there's an entire sector falling.
mm,
And when a sector falls, the market falls. That's called market instability. They're going to then make changes to prevent that from happening, because then that signals a complete recession and downfall. And so it's a way to put pressure
mm.
on from the government and from the leaders, because they're going to try to bail out the industry sector.
Don't talk to me about bailouts. I'm still not over 2008.
But in this situation, that the difference between the 2008, that was a financial system bailout. We're talking about tangible product goods here.
Well,
Um,
there's been
they
auto
were trying to
bailout.
they were
I
trying
mean,
to create a complete market collapse. But in this situation, the remedy is to change policies. The
Yeah,
remedy is to put, now you're putting pressure on, okay, well, maybe maybe that is the future of dark yard. We create this massive foundation and it's like, all right, you need to be contributing X, Y, and Z from yours, and you get to wear a badge. You get to be a part of it now. You get to be a trusted business now because we don't trust you currently, and we have very good reason not to.
very true. Well, that is the goal then.
Sorry, I could talk about this and scream into the camera all day about this.
Well, I think it's a good thing.
It is a good thing.
Why are you thinking it's a bad thing?
No, you know how it gets. We all just get like,
You're being too sensitive right now.
we just get frustrated and we all scream. And
Yeah,
I, and but again, I'm going to say it. Everything I just said is not an ideology. It's like, this is not a pipe dream.
solution
This is
based.
not something that we need to build. It's just something that we need to do. Like,
Yeah.
participate in is the right word. So,
Well, this has been amazing, Jake. My God, we covered a lot of territory today.
so much fun. And again, as always, I do feel energized. I always feel energized after talking to you for an hour. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you on the
Yes.
next one.
Yes. Peace.